Welcome, community of love, wherever you are in this amazing planet. So, in this community, we emphasize the importance of addressing any conflict with love and forgiveness. These two marvelous ingredients have the power to dissolve and resolve any inner conflict. This program is about spiritual, love, family, self, and money relationships. This is your host, Lilia Ackerman, known as the Raw Truth Digger, because I am a strong believer that in order to reconnect, rebuild, and revive your relationships, you must remove your inner conflicts to operate from that true self and get the right mindset to live your extraordinary life. So I am a certified transformational wellness master coach and a self-publisher. You can grab a copy of my books From Gloom to Bloom and De la Penumbra a la Aurora on the link below this video, right below. So today, our amazing star is Charles Meyer, a founder and a CEO of New Future Coaching, overcoming a 12 years porn and drug addiction. Easy to say, but I can imagine how hard it was to get out of that strong addiction. Charles' mission is to end fatherlessness in the household by helping men conquer addiction to walk in their unique divine purpose. I'm sorry. That this is an incredible mission. What an honor having you today with us, Charles. The audience would like to know about what you like, what you do. And let's start with an easy question, shall we? So, what is your favorite hobby?
Ooh, so my favorite hobby, uh, well, truthfully, I don't actually have very many hobbies like I used to. Um, really, I'm really enjoying fatherhood. I just became a dad, and so I have an 8 month old son, and he's absolutely amazing. So really,
Mm,
I think that if I were to say I had a hobby, really, it's just I'm so blessed that I get to be a father, and I get to enjoy being here with my wife and my son, and
that is good.
getting to do the work that I do. I get to do it from anywhere around the world. So I get to be fully present. And so, really, if I'm not, you know, working on impact and changing lives, then my family gets all my time at this point. And so I'm really just blessed that I get to be there with them.
That is so beautiful. That is amazing. And I can see your face lighting up when you're talking about the baby and your family and your wife and giving and being present. That is amazing. So, what are you from?
So I've pretty much spent my entire life in Tampa, Florida. And I did do 5 years up in Nashville, Tennessee, but I'm back in Tampa again. And I really believe that this is where God's called my family to be for the next little bit. So this is where we're putting down some roots.
That is very amazing. From Nashville because the weather is very different from where you are right now.
Oh
So,
yeah,
so it's good that you can adjust from two different places. Completely lifestyle is very different. Well, yes, it is very different. So, let me ask you, how did everything start about your story? Why? I really like the fatherlessness. Your mission is very needed today because I mean I speak to women, but honestly, uh, I realize along my mission too that men also need to be re-educated and need to be listened. Also, not just women being lied, but also men being lied through social media to invent somebody that we are not. But I'm glad that you're here representing that part, and you are not just men. You just didn't say men. You say father, which is a complete version of being a man.
yeah,
So
yeah.
tell us more about it.
So I'll add before I dive in there. I've worked with a lot of people over the last couple of years to get them free from addiction. And it mainly looked like men, but there were women as well.
Okay.
Now, the interesting thing is that even though there is a growing porn addiction crisis with women now, they're actually able to get free from addiction a lot faster than men, since traditionally women are a lot more emotionally connected, and this is a very emotional process. And that's part of why I'm so excited for today's call, because there's so much alignment with getting that inner work right and getting rid of those inner conflicts. And really, like, that's actually what started my journey into the addiction, was this lack of connection with myself. Because just like everyone else, I grew up in a, let's say, a fairly just decent household, but my parents knew what they knew, and we have an amazing relationship today. But they only knew what they knew. So, you know, I mean, things happen, life happens,
Yes.
situations happen.
Yeah.
And really, those wounds that I had as a child, they caused me to hide away my true self. And they caused me to put on this mask of who I wanted people to see me as, so that I could control how they saw me, because then I could protect myself from getting hurt again. And so, in order to protect myself and wear this mask, I needed to have ways that I could survive and live. But I really didn't have those kinds of outlets, because I could never connect with anyone, since I wasn't being real with anyone. So it kind of
Right.
became this, well, what do I do here? This situation, where I had to really start making a decision. Do I show people who I really am? Or do I just keep on protecting myself? And I wish that someone had have had that conversation with me and
Right.
helped me to learn to heal and to grow up and to build social connections. But no one ever had that conversation with me about how important that is, to learn to heal and build healthy social connections. So I built relationships, but only the ones that I felt like I was in control of, so that I could be safe. And if someone
Right.
wasn't safe, then I didn't want to be around them. And it ended up costing me, I believe, what could have been a lot of really amazing friendships if I had have actually been more real with people in my childhood. So this loneliness, it continues to grow in my childhood, and I feel disconnected from the whole world. I felt like a black sheep. I felt like the lone wolf. I felt like no matter where I went in life, I was constantly getting getting kicked out of groups. I constantly didn't have a place where I fit in. I never found where I truly belonged. And so this void of disconnection from people continued to just grow inside of me. There was this need for relationship, and i- and I needed to get that need met, because we're all built for
Yes.
connection. We're all built for relationship,
Yes.
right?
Yes. 100%. Yeah, I do. I do believe that. Yes.
Yeah. But
It
like
doesn't
that's where the
matter.
story started.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry to interrupt you. Please.
No, go ahead. Go ahead.
It is fascinating, the connection, and I believe that we are created exactly to need each other. I mean, this is a for me, it's a fascinating lesson from the beginning. When we're born, we need people to feed you, to take you to bed, to for everything. I mean, you're a baby. What can you do? You need 100%. And at the end of last days of on earth, I mean, you might be sick that you need people's help, or if you die older, I mean, your walk is slower, you still needing help. I mean, it's the first and the last lesson through the through our journey on earth, that we need each other. And I believe, doesn't matter, uh, especially now in social media, that we know exactly what is happening in another country, and life, in the real time. So we are connected more than ever, and I'm glad that you felt that urge for relationships, and I can hear your voice of I think that passion, that question that continue, were coming to you when you we're in an unfitted world with an unfitted people, when you feel that you don't belong, but then you still saying, the relationship, the connection, and wow. Tell me more.
Yeah.
Tell me, um, what what was your first step to start breaking all of this?
Well, so it started. The actual addiction started when I was 12 years old, and that was what I went to pornography to start trying to fill the void that I didn't know was there. And so, in the same way that it starts, that's how we also have to address stopping. We have to go back to, well, what happened that even made me go there in the first place, right? And
Hmm.
so that's really what this whole relationship piece is about. Now, I do believe that there's more pieces to this puzzle. It's not just relationship. If it were that easy, then we'd all do it. But this was one of the biggest pieces, and it came down to this: I was not in relationship with myself. I was not in relationship with people. I was not in relationship with God. And so how could I have the void filled when I didn't like who I am? So I didn't want to be where I am. I didn't want to be in the same room as me, but I couldn't escape me. I could escape people, but I couldn't escape me. And that, there's something so interesting about trying to run from your problems when you're the only one who's stuck with them at the end of the day.
Yes.
So I like to start and end with the simple fact that I had to get right with myself. A lot of people put emphasis, as I'm sure you're familiar with, building a life where you're building a relationship with God. And I mean, I am all about that. I love God. But the piece that people forget about more than any other is that relationship with themselves. And the reason this is so important to me is because one of those core roots is not just about relationships, it's about rejection. And
Yes.
so when you get rejected by someone enough times, I got rejected by people.
Right.
So I started to believe there was something wrong with me and I
Absolutely.
didn't like me because I got rejected. So what did I start doing? I started rejecting myself, but I couldn't get away. So that's where, yeah, I can get things right with God all day long, but they're never truly going to be right if I don't get right with myself and I don't start forgiving myself. And if I don't start learning how to open up again, and it starts with myself, learning how to love myself. And out of that, I will better be able to connect with people. And so then I can love people, because you can't love
Yes.
people if you don't even love yourself. What do you have to give them? Because it ain't love.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. One of my programs is Be Ready for Love, but then it's exactly the beginning, back to you. And people, I think we are programmed to social media, to all the norm. The norm is to blame somebody else, but not to look into you, because it is fun to tell you what to do, where you should be doing, um, how to talk, and what to say, but because the other person is the one need to make the changes. But at the moment if I question myself, I mean, what a hassle! I have to change myself. I have to do the job. So I turn around and continue focusing in other people than me, and it's
Yeah.
part of um I mean, in the movies, in the real TV shows, the reality shows, you see this constant fighting for trying to change each other. So I think that programming started 100 years ago, to the point that we see it as a normal, as a but again, everything starts with self.
Yeah.
Change yourself, change your world. That's my
Yeah.
favorite mantra.
It's so funny you say that. That's really been one of my favorite sayings. Not with those specific words, but Actually, I'd say more of a one of my favorite topics, and it's all about personal responsibility. Because the reason that my life was so terrible, at least I believed it was so terrible, was because I was blaming everyone else for all of my problems and I didn't take responsibility. And so when I finally learned that I have the power to change and that I could do it with my own hands, that blew my mind. I didn't realize, "Oh, I can just do something about this?" And I started to see that one of the biggest reasons why people don't change is because they don't want to be responsible for the consequences of change.
Yeah.
And so it's one of the biggest things that I have to teach someone when I'm walking them through recovering from any sort of addiction. It's that they have to be responsible for their choices. Because what will happen most of the time is people will blame rejection, they'll blame God, they'll blame the devil, they'll blame their brain, they'll blame their biology, they'll blame the internet, but
The
they'll never
government.
be responsible.
Yeah. The government, the society.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. So when
Yeah.
w- so you came to what made you or what was your first step that you say, you know what, I'm sick and tired of this, or what was your lowest point that you have the need to do something about it?
So I tried several times to change, but I didn't understand why I wanted to change. And so really I think that that's the biggest thing that I started with that actually started to create a real change. But it took a long time to get there because I kept on trying to change, but I didn't have a big enough reason why. I
Mm,
came up with a couple reasons like, oh, because it's bad, or because God said don't do this, or because it's destroying my brain. As it turns out, none of those really mattered to me. And it was because I wasn't connected to myself, I wasn't connected to love. And so I couldn't see how my actions were hurting other people.
okay,
And when I didn't understand um, how I was hurting other people, it just nothing else mattered to me. Because I could also turn back and say, well, who cares if it hurts other people? What about me? What about all the people that hurt me? And so there was this intertwining that I had to figure out where I had to stop playing the victim because when you're responsible, you can't be a victim because you're responsible now. So
correct,
that was
correct,
really like the biggest thing was like stop being a victim, start taking responsibility. And in order to do those things, like I had to start with that why, if that makes sense. It, I don't think there's really a clear way to explain it other than they fuel each other because I can have a why, but what's going to make me want to have a why? Well, I need to be responsible. I don't need a why if I'm not responsible because if I'm a
correct,
victim, I can just blame everyone.
correct.
But I don't really know which one came first, if I'm being honest. I think that I think that really what it comes down to is I hit this low moment where and this was several years down the road. So by the time that I had grown up and I'm still dealing with the addiction, I had added on drugs, I added on alcohol, food addiction, video game addiction, codependent relationships. I had all the addictions, and so I hit this low point where I woke up in a parking lot, and at about 3 a.m. I was covered in my own vomit. And I was
Wow,
on the phone with someone, but I didn't know that because I was blackout drunk. So I hopped out of the car, and it's just this empty parking lot. I had no idea where I was, but I just screamed that I didn't want to be alive anymore.
wow,
And it was at that moment that I decided I think I need help and I need to do something about this. Because truthfully, it's not that I didn't want to be alive, is that I didn't like the life I was living, but I didn't see any other way out of it. So that right there, that's the thing that made me say I need to do something about this. And somewhere along the way, that was where my why started to really come into the story.
Mhm.
But I wasn't fully ready to take responsibility,
Okay.
because I continued to party. I continued to do drugs. I continued to watch porn and destroy my life. And I had no idea that even though I had a why, kind of, I wasn't there yet. All I knew was, okay, something needs to change, because that was a pretty low moment for me. Um, but the thing is, with addiction, this is the story. There's always another rock bottom. I mean, one I don't talk about very often was that there was a night where, like, I ran out of drugs and I could not be sober without getting a panic attack. So I needed to go to sleep, but I couldn't because I was
Wow.
wide awake trying to find something that I could smoke or anything. I tried smoking just valerian root, which is just a natural sleeping powder. You're supposed to just take it in a capsule over the counter, but um no, I mean, that didn't work because all the regular stuff, I couldn't feel anything. Melatonin, nothing. And so I had
Mm.
grown so numb to these things that I went digging through my trash to see if I had any leftover drugs. And so that
Wow.
was another time that I had said, you know what? I think I need help. And so there's several more moments where I just continued to say, I think I need help, until eventually, I think this is the lowest of lows that I hit. I started looking for answers, kind of, but not really, once again, because I didn't want to give up the thing that was meeting my need for love and connection, and just it helped me feel numb, and yet it helps me feel alive all at the same time. See, this is the weirdness about addiction, is that it just kind of blends together. There's no real life, but at least it's
It's,
not the one I'm living without the addiction,
of course. Yeah,
which I didn't like.
yeah, it's like a creating your own reality
Yeah.
in
Yeah,
this
except
reality.
it's a very broken reality, unfortunately, and
Yes, I
so
mean, so you're a miracle because I
yeah.
mean, you went from all kind of drugs, all kind of addictions, and in a circle of, I mean, 12 years is a long time, and to come out, I mean, if you don't tell me that story, just looking at your face and your voice so vibrant, I will never guess that you are coming from that kind of dark world. You're a
Yeah.
miracle. You are a miracle. So
Thank you.
yeah, I mean, no, we thank you because finally you after you're saying, you know, many times I came to my senses. I need help. But saying that, well, there's one moment that you recognize, but taking the step of seeking that help, that's a different ball.
It's
So
actually really funny that you mentioned that. There's several people that I've worked with who, I mean, they commit and they choose to join the program and work with me, and even then, they're not actually ready.
correct.
Because they say they commit, but then they don't actually go through with what they need to do in order to get free. And actually, this kind of ties in with this final, like, rock bottom. I think you'll like this one. I uh, I did some mushrooms, and when I mean mushrooms, I mean I did a lot of mushrooms one night, and I was the guy that I mean, I grew up with clean living, but when I got introduced to drugs, while everyone else stopped at a very low point, I was the guy that said, I'll have some of this, I'll have some of that. And so I was into everything. But I had a lot of mushrooms one night, and I personally, I don't feel that they're a part of my life anymore. So that's just
Okay.
where I stand on them. But I did have a lot. And I actually witnessed myself falling into my grave, surrounded by my loved ones. And I saw myself falling over and over and over.
Mm.
And the only thing that I could hear in my head at the in that experience was it worth it? And the only answer I could give was no. It's not worth it. It wasn't,
Wow.
it was never worth it. And I thought that I actually died. And see, that's what it took for me to make a change. But you're not going to like this. You see, I went to throw up everything that I thought was literally about to kill me, just to find out I was totally fine, of course, because I was living in a false reality, right?
Yes.
Um, and you'd think that that was the moment that I would change. Because here's the thing, I said, I need help. I'm going to change. But no, I didn't. I continued to go on partying and I continued to hit rock bottom after rock bottom. But it's like every single time I said I need help, it
Okay.
brought me a little bit closer to actually getting help until one day I'm just working my job. As it turns out, I could successfully work a job. And see, this is where most people are able to hide because I was doing things that like the job definitely would not approve of. And I was able to make friends, but I was a high functioning addict. You
Wow.
see, I looked like a regular person. I looked like a regular employee, but
Okay.
behind closed doors, I was a different person. I was living that double life.
Double life.
And
Wow.
so I started to make friends at work. And little by little I found other people that were interested in, similar things, like drugs. And so I started hanging out with them. And as it turns out, it's like the cycle's just repeated all over because um, I was into the addictions, all of them, the pornography, the drugs, all the partying, back when I was living in Tampa. But then when I moved to Nashville, it's like, great, I got a fresh start. Nope, right back to it all over again. And so I started making these friends, but I'm a little bit older. So I've gotten a couple of I need help. I've gotten a couple of those under my belt now. And so I start making these friends and I start realizing, oh, I can talk to people about what's going on. I had no idea. I was high 24/7. And
Man.
so I just started telling people, I think I need help, guys. And see, this was what got me to actually change, or start seeking help. I still wasn't ready for change yet, but I started seeking help just by telling people. But this was terrible. No matter who I told, none of them took me seriously. They all thought I was joking. They all said I was fine. They didn't know that inside I was deeply depressed and suicidal. They had no idea that I didn't care about being alive and that um, I didn't believe anybody would miss me.
Wow.
I was so full of hatred for who I had become and who I had allowed myself to become, that
That
I didn't think,
you have more reasons for to rejecting yourself.
yeah, yeah, that's really it. And so, as you can see, I think the only real way to describe what was going on deep inside of me was this tug of war because I said I wanted change, but why wouldn't I change? And I think that it comes down to I had needs that were being met, but I wasn't sure, could these needs be met in a healthier way? Because so far, what I've seen from people that are not getting high 24/7, they don't even like their lives. So, what am I going to have to look forward to? And so, I think that this is actually a really interesting point where a lot of people they say, "Well, I'm not addicted," or "Well, I'm not like that guy." Well, a lot of people aren't like me. This is true. But a lot of people are living very miserable lives because they don't know how to change. And that is no different from mine. Mine was just painful enough to create change. And I
Yes.
think that that's oddly enough one of the reasons why I did change was because it was so painful after so long. And I had said I need help enough times that I started to take myself seriously. I started looking around at my life and I realized my life is terrible. I don't like the people I'm hanging out with. I don't like the clothes I wear. I don't like how messy my place is. I don't like how empty my bank is. I don't like how I'm eating. I didn't like where I was working. I didn't like anything about my life. And I
Wow.
wondered why I was so depressed and getting high all the time. Maybe it's because I didn't take responsibility for the life that I have. And maybe that's on me to do something about it. So I started reading personal development books. I started reading self-help books. I started reading the Bible more, and I started getting better at work. But you see, even though I was getting better, there was still that tug of war, and I wouldn't let go of my old life. I wouldn't let go
Well,
because I wasn't
that's
ready.
what you that's a life that you knew. And
Yeah,
it is hard um to move from what you know to what you don't know. I
yeah,
mean, how does a life that we want to live, but what it feels, how it tastes, and what to do after. And there's so many doubts and questions that we have to face again. And sometimes it's easy because that, like you mentioned, I told my friends, the more I talk to people, I find out that they are doing the same thing. So we know this kind of conversations, but we don't know other kind of conversations. So I think that this is one of the major reason why people are not succeeding or terrifying to move on, because they end with no friends. Like when I became a Christian, I was coming from the world, so that's my language, that's my things. And I noticed, well, they don't do this and they don't do that. So I couldn't talk with my other friends because this is what I recognize, this is what I want. So I couldn't share with my friends because they were making fun of me. They called me names, and it was everything was like a big joke. And I couldn't talk with these people because they don't understand where I'm coming from. So it is uh like you keep mentioning, taking responsibility, because at the end it's our lives, and no one is going to take that responsibility from you. No one. There's something that we have um to be determined. I think my daughters, they are the one, my little ones, they are the one gave me the push that I needed.
yeah, yeah. For me, that was my now wife. A lot of guys, they say that they're going to stop watching porn. They're going to stop doing drugs when they get in a relationship or when they get married. For me, a lot of people confuse my story because it's a little complex, but I'll try and make it as simple as possible. When I finally gave God my life and I said, "All right, God, you can have the wheel and you can change my life." He introduced me to my wife within the next 3 days. I don't remember when, everything was a blur, but we reconnected and we started talking and we continued to talk every single day. And it was literally like we were in a fairy tale. I mean, I can't explain how beautiful it was getting to reconnect with Megan and to get to know her as we're both adults now. And so, one of the challenges that we were running into was that I was still very heavily addicted. And I had gotten really good at stabilizing as an adult while holding on to my addictions. I got way better at making friendships. I got way better at just learning to enjoy living in addict's life and partying and doing drugs. And I accepted it. I didn't want to accept it, but I believe that, well, if this is what my life is going to look like, then let's make the most of it. And I mean, that was when God introduced me to my wife, was when I was at my absolute lowest, enjoying the depravity and carnality that life had to offer. And so as we started talking, started to realize there's something different about her. And it wasn't like before, because every other relationship that I had gone after, it it always ended as a lie, because
Okay.
I thought that the other person liked me. But pornography had twisted my mind so much that I thought the other person liked me when in reality they didn't. And so,
Okay.
I mean, I think that that's part of the thing about the pornography and the drugs, is they make you believe things that aren't really true.
Okay.
And it makes it very difficult to tell what's real. So now that I found, well, I mean, God introduced me to my now wife. Um, she was different. I found someone who was different because she wasn't afraid to be herself.
Okay.
And even though we were both still growing as people, I was stuck in this slight tug of war where I wanted more for my life, but I accepted the drugs and the pornography and the drinking and all of that. And as we continue to talk every single day, she eventually catches on that there's probably some things going on in the background that I haven't told her. And I started to realize I really like her, but I don't want to hurt her. And so if I want to be the kind of husband and maybe one day father that is worthy of marrying Megan, then I need to start working on myself again, and not just look to get good enough, but I want to be the best.
Wow.
And that was a powerful enough why. So I started seeking to like help myself once again. But it's funny because the Bible actually describes this as the entire story of the Old Testament, where man tries to save himself by his own strength, but it's not working. So cool. I accept God, I accept Jesus, and he starts introducing my wife to me, and all these other people start entering my life, and they start bringing me closer to Him. But I'm not ready to let go of my old life, and it's like this whole culmination of things came together where suddenly I'm surrounded by people that actually want to help me now. So I start meeting with these people who have worked with a lot of people in my situation, and they're able to help me understand all the spiritual stuff behind what's going on, the emotional stuff, the traumas, the belief systems, the identity. And at the same time, I'm learning on my own because I actually really liked the help that I was getting. And I started to feel really good about life. And I started to feel so free and so alive. And in order to reach the next level, I knew that the only way I was going to get there was if I was completely free from the addictions. So I even went so far as to let Megan know, here's everything that I've been doing, and I want you to know this so that I don't want to hurt you, because I like you too much to hurt you. So
Wow.
if we're ever going to be in a relationship, I mean, I wanted to be in a relationship with her already, but God wouldn't let her say yes until I was free. So I kind of realized, if we're ever going to be in a relationship, Megan, then I think I need to be fully free. And that's the only way that I'm actually going to be able to have a healthy relationship with you.
Mhm.
So I eventually, I started to find my freedom, and until one day, there we go. And I don't mean like it just disappeared into thin air, but I did go to church one day. It was a crazy story that we'll have to definitely get into another time. But like, really, what it comes down to is I went to church, and I cried my heart out for 2 hours. And well, it was in that time that I cried. I don't just mean like a couple of tears. I mean, I was
I can imagine.
screaming. I was sobbing.
Wow. Wow.
And it was the first time that I believe I had ever fully removed the mask off of my life. And I said, I need help, and I can't do this on my own. And I need a God that's bigger than me and stronger than
Oh,
me.
wow.
And I mean, there was a whole trail of healing events that led up to that moment. And I believe a lot of people, they try and skip that. but I believe that this is actually described even in the Bible, where if you find your complete freedom, but you don't actually learn how to live a new lifestyle, then you're actually gonna go back to the old way of living.
Exactly.
And
Exactly.
so
Yes.
I'm really
Yes.
glad that that it happened this way, where I worked on my belief systems, and I worked on my identity, and I worked on increasing my self worth and my confidence, and then I found freedom. And so I had become the man who was capable of maintaining freedom, and because I could maintain it, I proved after a certain amount of time to Megan that I am in fact free, and I am able to live this better lifestyle. And I had cut out all my party friends and all those things, and I
Wow.
did all that because I finally no longer needed the addictions. I no longer needed codependent relationships,
Of course.
because the void was filled. I was no longer being fake. I was being real. And so I started connecting with people in a real way. And I started connecting with myself, and I started really liking myself. And these changes that I had made really helped me be able to better navigate all of life. I started exploding at work and doing really well. And it's so interesting. Most people wonder, why is my life so miserable? But they're not doing anything to change it. And so things continue to stay the same. But I am a living example that when you finally say yes to change, everything in life gets better. And that has been my experience. And I believe it's been the same thing for every single client I've worked with who has actually said yes to change, and they fully commit to the process and they see it through. And I'm talking marriages get saved. We're seeing the trajectory of so many people's futures is getting transformed because they're saying yes to change, and they're committing to go through this healing journey where they learn how to reconnect with who God made them. They
Exactly.
learn how to
Yes.
be that person. And I mean, it was a crazy journey for me. And I thought that I was going to be dead in a ditch, but God had other plans for me. And I couldn't have done that without him. But here's the other thing is he couldn't have changed me if I didn't say yes to change.
Exactly. Yes. Yeah. I mean, the Bible is very clear that he come and knock the door, and it's up to you to open. God never is gonna force you to do anything that you don't want to. He gave us the scriptures. He gave you the guidance for life. He gave us the way out. How can we stay away from temptation? But it's up to us. It's up to us what we're gonna say, what we're gonna do, what and your powerful story is really invite people, because you were living in duality, two different worlds. And you, I mean, practically you mastered that kind of life. So you are a perfect example of situations that people, they will say, I will never, it never is going to happen to me. But after hear your powerful story, hey, it happens to you, it will happen for them. It will happen for them. And
Yeah.
and yes, I believe through all of this process, the many times that you said, I want to change, I need change, I need change. But you mentioned something, that not on your power, because you were not going to be able to do it on your own. And this is the beauty about having God on your side. Like He is your strength when we don't have that strength. He's your understanding when you don't have that understanding, the clarity. But I believe with all my heart that God saw those many moments that you wanted to change, but you didn't know how. And He sent you a full army, starting with Megan, and then all the people that were start soon surrounding you. And oh, I feel like wow, a moment of and being you finally, because I mean the way that you say, I didn't cry, like a one tear, but I was crying, I was screaming. And if that happened in the church, I mean, lots of people were there, but is those moments are so precious when finally you came to your last moment, and can be, you can be you. then finally you don't care about how people are looking at you or what they're gonna say about you. That moment is between to come clean between you and God. And this
Yeah.
is, I think that's what God appreciates, the moment of truth.
Yeah. There's
Surrender.
this yeah, I mean, that's the perfect word for it because I had to go through this long, painful journey. And I mean, this is what I love about being able to help people get free from the addiction is they don't have to go through the same pain that I did. And I'm sure it's the same way for you, is that being able to help someone to fast forward and skip all the painful lessons that I had to learn. And instead I can teach them, look, you just got to start being honest with yourself about the
Correct.
things you don't like in your life that you haven't given yourself permission to talk about. I wasn't willing to tell people that I didn't like my life for so long and it kept me stuck. I wasn't willing to tell people about any of the problems that I had going on. And I wasn't talking to them about, I don't like this about life. I don't like that about life. This person hurt me. That person hurt me. I wasn't willing to talk about it. And when I started talking about it, that's when things started changing. But I kept quiet for so long because I felt powerless to change. Even though I said I want to change. I mean, you just listen to this whole story of a tug of war where I want to change, but not really. And I wanted it, but then I said, never mind, I don't want change. And it's crazy because I talked to so many, I'm talking thousands of men and women that say they want change, but then they fall off the radar back into the void of the internet. And so there's so many people that they say they're desperate for help. And I believe them. But you know who I really believe the most is the people who take the jump and the ones who say yes
Of
and they
course.
show up and they do the work because that's what it took for me to change. I had to stop using my words and I had to start taking steps. I had to
Action.
I had to take action, and that was where the change happens.
Yeah, I mean, I heard this taking action is alchemy, and alchemy is
Mm,
transformation. Unless
that's good.
and God said, be a doer, not just a hearer. I mean, you listen the word of God, but you need to apply the word of God, and that's when we're taking action. And when we're taking action, even as a baby, you don't know how to walk, but you stood up and make your first attempt, and you fail and make your first attempt. Is taking the action uh, of doing something different. And
Yeah.
then finally you start walking, and obviously I mean that you own that person that you became, that you are the man that God intend you to be,
Yeah.
and that's power.
Yeah. I couldn't agree more. The authenticity that was required for me to get free was so much more than I thought was needed. And the interesting part about all of that is that it was a lot to me, but that was supposed to be normal. See, being normal was scary to me. I was so far in the negative. I didn't know what normal looked like. So being authentic, the fact that that's supposed to be normal and I'm not supposed to live a double life and I'm supposed to tell the truth as a normal thing, that was so foreign to me. And when I learned that that's normal and I started to make that my normal, I mean, it's crazy what God can do if you simply be real
Be
and
real.
watch as the world starts to change around you.
Correct. Correct. So when somebody comes to you, what is the step that you take them? What is the process that you take them from?
Ooh, I like this question.
Okay.
So there's a lot of different directions that'll go depending on where this person is at in their journey.
Of course.
Sometimes I'll have folks that they've tried everything and they're super desperate And I have other folks that they're super confident and they say, I've tried everything, Charles, and I need help with this last little piece. And I have everything in between. Um, but what I really say for the majority of people, what I end up needing to walk them through first is getting them on board in here and in here.
Okay.
In their because they say in their mind, "Oh, I'm ready. I know this is a problem and I need to change." But the men are so disconnected from their emotions. And so I want them to get to a yes in their head by showing them the pain of the past, present, and future with this addiction. And then I
Okay.
want that to translate into their heart by showing them how it's not only pain for themselves, but it's pain for everyone around them. They're hurting the people they love the most. They put marriages at risk. They put their children at risk of you know, maybe it's a married man and he has kids and his wife finds out that he's watching pornography and they end up getting divorced and that impacts the children. We've
Absolutely.
seen addictions impact people's jobs. I mean, I was even talking with someone the other day who had a thriving business that got taken down because her husband had a 20 plus year addiction that was stealing the funds that they were getting from the business. And
Wow.
so there's so many different ways that life can be impacted and people are getting hurt simply because
Yes.
of a an addiction that is not harming anyone else. But when you can show someone deep inside to the part of them that doesn't want to show themselves to the world, when you can show that part of a person that is what needs to change, that they need to feel bad about this. And I'm not saying like I want them to feel guilt, shame, and condemnation. No, I don't believe that that's good. But what I
Yes.
am saying is that I want them to recognize this hurts more than just you as the person in the addiction. And if you really, really care about the people you love, then it's time to make a change. And so I'll take them through a ton of mindset shifts and I'll help them see the world a little bit more clearly, just enough, just enough so that they say, okay, now I'm actually ready. I didn't realize, Charles, that I committed. I said yes, and we're working together, but I didn't realize I needed to be even more on board. So that's the first thing that needs to happen is they need to get emotionally to a yes.
That's beautiful because if you are able to take somebody to understand that the real commitment, then they will succeed. They will
Yeah,
succeed.
and
Then
it's so interesting. There's a lot of people that they go through, like they'll go to accountability circles. They'll go to accountability groups. They'll a lot of people for pornography addiction. They'll download apps on their phones to block websites and to block inappropriate photos that might pop up. And they try all these things, but it doesn't work because they're still running from themselves. And once they stop running from themselves and they decide, okay, now I need to make a real change and I'm ready to get help, guys, for real, they're still not on board emotionally. They're only on board in here because they see the damage that it's doing to themselves, but not to other people. That's why the emotional part is so important because it shows that this has a greater impact than on just you as an individual. And I
yes.
think that that's the biggest difference between when someone works with me versus when they are going to a recovery group where everyone's addicted, including the people trying to help them get free. Like it's the blind leading the blind, and we need to do things differently.
Beautiful. If what is the most valuable lesson that you have learned that has impacted your success?
So I think one of the most valuable lessons is probably this: love is choice.
Yes.
And how can I love my neighbor as myself? How can I love myself? How can I love God if I'm not responsible for my choices?
Okay.
So I had to learn that love is completely impossible if I don't take responsibility. And all I'll end up doing is hurting everyone else around me because I'm playing a victim and I'm blaming others. Because if I'm not responsible for my choices, then I'm not responsible for the consequences.
course.
And so hurting other people isn't my fault because it wasn't me that did it. So I had to
Exactly.
become responsible. Um, and I had to choose responsibility. I had to choose love, in other words. And when I chose love, that was probably the most powerful lesson. I think that's the best way to even connect the dots between what goes on to get someone to an emotional yes. I mean, it's really another way of looking at the same thing all over again. It's surrendering to God is huge, but he needed to take me through this journey of showing me what it really means to love others and to love myself and to love him. Because how can I call that how can I call God good? How can I say that I'm a good person? How can I actually like anybody as they are if there's nothing good in me, if I'm just full of hatred and blame shifting and playing the victim all the time, and I'm a liar because I've got my mask on? I mean, and I don't want to hurt anyone's feelings here if they're listening. Like, maybe this is them, but I mean, we got to be honest about
Yes.
this, because that's really where it begins. I had to get honest and learn that, like, I made the choice to blame people. I made the choice to play the victim. I made the choice to hurt people. And I made the choice to ignore when I was hurting people
Yeah.
because I was too busy feeling sorry about myself. So I'd say that that's the most powerful lesson, I believe, is that love is choice. And when I chose to be responsible, I mean, I think that it
Yeah.
almost sounds like it's the same thing all over again. That's when change happens. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. God gave us, well, in the beginning, it was 631 laws to the people
Hmm.
to the Israelites. And then it was the Ten Commandments from 631 to 10 Commandments. And then it's two. At the end, it was two. Love God with all your heart, with all your mind, and love your neighbor as you love yourself.
Hmm.
So love is the answer. And
Yeah.
yes, it is a choice. You choose to love and you choose not to love. But when you choose to love, he said, you fulfill the whole law when you have the understanding about love. And that is the beauty. And I that speak about your integrity, your passion to help others, the understanding, and now you are full of grace and kindness because you understand what is not just to be in that addiction, but get stuck for 12 years trying to get out and just it's not happening. But finally, you did it. So you understand what is to truly be and walking in that very dark place. So people like really can come and trust in you. And the most powerful thing is that you were able to stay in your new life, taking ownership of your new life. Because some
Yeah.
people like you say, we sometimes tend to try the way out and we are doing good, but we go back
Hmm.
into where we came from. But when you get out and sustain your freedom, sustain your walking with God, sustain the new person, that is transformation.
Yeah. Yeah. That is what I believe. And this could be getting into some more of like the religious side of things, but uh, that's what I believe true repentance is. And so
Yeah.
a lot of people, this is something I teach my clients all the time. They believe that repentance looks like, I'm sorry, God, I won't do it again. But I believe what repentance actually is a change of heart
Yes.
reflected in a change of action. So don't tell me you're sorry, be sorry. And when you show with a change of action, that is repentance.
Yes.
And so I think that really why this is important is for maybe even folks that they don't have a great relationship with God, or they feel like God hates them, or maybe they don't want anything to do with God because maybe they think to themselves that, oh, God's this crazy angry guy in the sky, and he wants me to repent to him for just being who I am. And I'm just over here thinking to myself, like, that's he wants the same thing that you want. You, if someone hurts you, he wants you to be actually sorry. Like, it, how could I call let's say Joe? How could I call Joe my friend if every time Joe slaps me across the face, he says sorry and then slaps me across the face again? And so, I mean, that's not a friend to me. So I really leave it to say that, like, I think that we've overcomplicated things
Oh,
as
yeah,
far as
we do.
relationship with God goes, because repentance is the same thing that we would expect from anyone else. Is just be better, do better. But most people, what they'll do is they'll try and change their actions, but they haven't changed what's going on inside. They haven't changed their heart. They haven't changed their mind. And so they're still faking it, living that double life. They're stuck in the tug of war because they're still wearing a mask, trying to make the change and say, I'm doing better, I'm doing better. Because deep inside, they don't believe that they're loved. They don't believe they're wanted.
Yeah,
They believe they have to hold on to these things, whether it's an addiction or whatever it is that they're holding on to. They believe they've got to hold on to them because without them, they don't know what life looks like, and they're afraid that they're going to get hurt again. And I believe that there's a
correct.
better life out there for everyone because I'm experiencing that better life now, and so is everyone else that I work with. And it's because they gave. Not only did they give God their yes, but they continue to every single day by their actions, by their yes inside of their hearts. And as they continue to walk through that journey into freedom, they learn to build a life that they really love versus beforehand, they felt like they were doomed to live life as this person that they didn't like.
Mhm.
They didn't feel like they had control because they weren't responsible. But when you're
Right,
responsible, you have control over your future. And so you can make new choices and change your future. And I
correct.
think that that's what everyone needs to get to is this realization that it's within your control rather than saying, oh, it's up to God what my life looks like. Well, sure. I mean, the Bible talks about a little bit of that, but you still got to take a step every single
Yes.
day.
Yeah, 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 yes. Every day is temptation, is a little bit of distress. You never know what is gonna come along that day. You wake up and suddenly you start being bombarded with thoughts that you don't know where they're coming from. But if you are, and every moment, if we are connected to God, we will know what to do, we will know what to say. And it's not like a you never feel sad, it's not like a you never cry, it's not like you never feel doubt. But you comparing to before, falling into the addiction, falling into the drugs and the alcohol, and you know immediately what to do because you are connected with God. You are connected with the Word. You know the Word, and this will be the moment to apply what you have learned. So it's
Yeah,
very different action. Before it was reaction, but now it's different actions
that's
that we
good.
can take, the godly actions.
Yes, yeah, I
So
love that.
if how can people find you? What information would you like to share with the audience? And tell us.
Absolutely. So I'll say this: I really loved your book. I loved it, Lilia. So
Oh,
for
thank you.
anyone who's listening and you're following Lilia, then I have a free gift for you. You can find me on Instagram or Facebook at Freedom Worker Charles, and this is just for the people listening. So if that's you and you want to learn more about what I do, and if you need help getting free from porn addiction, then I have this free gift for you. You can just message me from Lilia's book. Just message me this gloom to bloom. I have a free gift for you. And thank you so much, Lilia, for having me
You
on
are
here. This is so
amazing.
awesome.
You are amazing, Charles. Thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And at the end of this, on the information below, I'm gonna put the link so you can contact Charles and see. He's amazing. He has a gift for you, and so it is a pleasure having you. A pleasure to listen to your powerful story, your powerful transformation, and a great inspiration that it doesn't matter how deep you are in your life and how dark your life is right now. You can help people. People can get transformed just the way you did it. So my beautiful audience and my beautiful men in this planet, it doesn't matter where you are. You know, there's Charles here that can help you and that can guide you through exactly the same thing that he did. And I promise you, you're gonna succeed getting out from whatever you are. You are not alone. There's many of us. I mean, my addictions were different, but still, I we know what is to be in the dark. We know what is to suffer. We know what is not to have a voice. And but finally, Charles found his. So and you using very well your voice. So if you have any question, any suggested topic, or want to order some of my books, you can do it through my website, liliaackermancoach.com. And just please don't forget to share, to like, to comment, and subscribe to the program, because this is the only way these videos and this powerful information like we heard today, it keep rolling. And you never know when it's somebody that is about to commit suicide, that is about to get divorced, like Charles mentioned, that is about to be financially broken if they don't get out of what they are right now. It can save somebody's life. So just go and click I like, and thank you very much. See you next time. And it is a pleasure. And remember, until next time, don't forget to love more and forgive more. Bye. Okay. Um, where is the, oh, here's, stop the recording.